everyone. I'm back here today with my 7 p.m. Wow series. Wow, words of wisdom. I hope you all are enjoying this new series of mine where I want to share about those people who have, in some way or the other, inspired me too. Today, I'm here with a very famous personality, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This person has inspired me so much. I have, he was, he died before even I was born. But what all he did, how well he speaks. I mean, this man made me also put my thinking cap to see and to ponder how well he speaks and what all he did for the rising civil rights for the Negroes, especially. So, let us quickly see all about this man. So who was Martin Luther King Jr.? Martin Luther King Jr. was born Michael Luther King Jr., but later had his name changed to Martin. His grandfather began the family's long tenure as pastors of the Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, serving from 1914 to 1931. His father has served from then until the present, and from 1960 until his death, Martin Luther acted as a co-pastor. Martin Luther attended segregated public schools in Georgia. Graduating from high school at the age of 15, he received the BA degree in 1948 from Morehouse College, a distinguished Negro institution of Atlanta, from which both his father and grandfather had graduated. So, as you see, I just read that he had attended a segregated public school. Segregated means a separate public school that was meant only for the Negroes, because probably at that time there was a lot of discrimination between the whites and the Negroes. Here we have the picture of Martin Luther King Jr. and Sr. His father's picture is here, as we can all see. In 1957, he was elected president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, an organization formed to provide new leadership for the now burgeoning civil rights movement. Burgeoning, rising, coming to life, new idea for the civil rights movement. The ideals for this organization he took from Christianity, and its operational techniques point to be noted from the father of our nation, Gandhiji. In the 11-year period between 1957 and 1968, King traveled over 6 million miles and spoke over 2,500 times, appearing wherever there was injustice, protest, and action. And meanwhile, he wrote 5 books as well as numerous articles. He directed peaceful march on Washington, D.C. of 250,000 people, to whom he delivered his address, I Have a Dream. And today I am here with this famous speech of Martin Luther King Jr. that really moved me and really made me ponder. And just when I read, just listen to the words that he speaks. He conferred with President John F. Kennedy and campaigned for President Lyndon B. Johnson. He was arrested upwards of 20 times and assaulted at least 4 times. He was awarded 5 honorary degrees and was named Man of the Year by Time magazine in 1963. He became not only the symbolic leader of American blacks, but also a world figure. He received the Nobel Peace Prize. We can just see a beautiful picture of his getting the Nobel Peace Prize as such a great achievement. At the age of 35, Martin Luther King Jr. was the youngest man to have received the Nobel Peace Prize. When notified of his selection, he announced that he would turn over the prize money of, this is $54,123, that is 54,123, to the furtherance of civil rights. And actually, he spent the whole money for the civil rights. He did not keep anything for himself. And in the beginning only, he had told and announced people about this. So this was a great act. Here we can see this famous speech of his, and just look at the picture. Around so many people are here listening to his speech. The speech is known famously as I Have a Dream. Martin Luther King Jr., the March on Washington, D.C. for jobs and freedom. All right, and this was on the August of 28, 1963, and he actually spoke all this to give so that all the civil rights are given properly, equally to the Negroes as well. So I start with his speech, although it is a long speech. In between, I have put a few dots and left in between. You can definitely Google it and read the whole speech. But the words that actually inspired me are here, and just see, so selected and wonderful his words are. And I want each one of you, you should know these words, and whenever possible, whenever you get a paragraph or an article to write and it is something concerning with all this, please pick up lines from here. You will really love it. So let us quickly read the inspiring speech. In his iconic speech at the Lincoln Memorial for the 1963 March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, King, that is Martin Luther King, urged America to make real the promises of democracy. King synthesized portions of his earlier speeches to capture both the necessity for change and the potential for hope in the American society. He says, I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of a nation. 50 years ago, a great American, in whose symbolic shadow we stand today, signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon, light of hope, to millions of Negro slaves. Yeah, who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. He actually wanted to say that everyone is getting rich. All communities, all the whites are prospering. But these Negroes are living a segregated life, separate, discriminated life. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. And so we have come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. In a sense, we have come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall here. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be granted, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. Just see so powerful his words are. You know, he says that when the democracy, when the words in the Constitution were being written, everybody was declaring independence for every citizen of America, the Negroes, still after 100 years, are fighting because of this discrimination. They have still not got their rights. And here, these dotted words show that there were more words after this. But the words I told you that actually moved me, I'll continue with that now. He goes on to say, but there is something that I must say to my people, Negroes, who stand on the warm threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. So this was actually taken from Gandhiji. Even Gandhiji was strictly very against any type of physical violence. He wanted everybody to talk and to resolve things. And that is what Martin Luther King was following. So he tells his people that we are fighting, we are protesting, but it should not be a physical violence protest. Then he goes on to say, and these are the words, of I have a freedom. Just listen, every word has such a lot of weight. He continues, I say to you today, my friends, so even though we face difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into oases of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day, down in Alabama, with its vicious racist, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day, right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, every hill, every mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the God shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith that I go back to the south with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. Wonderful speech. This, when I read when I was in school, till from then, I so often use his words. I quote that rightly said by Martin Luther King Jr. So even you should also make use of these strong words. They have got such a lot of weight. And the words, the selected words that he has used really make you, wear the thinking cap. This quotation is also his. I just read it. I have a dream that my four little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of the Negroes, of their skin, but by the content of their character. So he wanted everybody, all the Negroes, all the blacks, to be good, to have a good character. All right. And he prays that in future, everyone, every Negro may live and may be judged not on the basis of color, but on character. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning. My country, it is of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. So he sings a song, on the stage. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and just see how everybody with banners and posters were together with him, and there were so many people there cheering and applauding this powerful speech. And then he goes on to say, and if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. So let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghanies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from the Stone Mountain of Georgia. This is the place where the Negroes live. Let freedom ring from the Lookout Mountains of the Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. So powerful his words are. First he names the places where all the whites live, and then he moves on to say not only that, and then he names Georgia, then he names Tennessee, then he names Mississippi. All these places were, segregated, and only Negroes lived here. And just see what this quotation of his, there are lots of quotations people use, and he has said, I never intend to adjust myself to economic conditions that will take necessities from the man to give luxuries to the few. So that he wanted to say that all you are taking the necessities, even the poor people, the Negroes, they were getting so poor, they were not getting the necessities of life, and only the rich, only the few rich were getting richer. So he was totally against that. Continues to say, and when this happens, so when freedom rings in all these places, when this happens, then people, whatever is written in the bracket, that the audience is saying. So people say, let it ring, all that. All right. And then he says, and when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet and from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all God's children, black men and white men, Jews and the Gentiles, the Protestants and the Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. Really, and then, after the speech, there were newspapers and magazines and everything full with the news that Martin Luther King sets true equality goals. And he also mentions, between the two religious communities, he's named them, the Catholics or the Protestants and all that he has named. So it was actually totally against any type of discrimination. And very sadly, on the evening of April 4th, 1968, while standing on the balcony of his motel room in Memphis, Tennessee, where he was to lead a protest march in sympathy with striking garbage workers of that city, he was assassinated. So again, he was getting ready on this day. He was standing at his balcony of the motel. All right. And this was on April 4th, 1968. He was going for a march to protest for the garbage men. It was on that day he was assassinated. And then, the newspapers and all had that King shot to death in Memphis. So I have a newspaper photograph here. And this, the last thing, there are so many, read his quotations also and read all about him. He also said, we often use this quotation, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. So we should have love and compassion with everyone. We should not be a follower of any type of discrimination, not on the basis of color, not on the basis of religion or any race. We should never have this hatred with any person. Only love can win other people. So love everyone. I hoped you liked this episode of mine, a very, very inspiring and a very famous speech of his, of Martin Luther King Jr. If you are a newcomer and you have not subscribed my channel, please, 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 please press the subscribe button and the bell icon for the latest notifications. We'll meet next Wednesday with another inspiring personality. Till then, take good care of yourself. Bye-bye.